Hey everybody, and welcome to Flipping Pages. Today we're going to be flipping through this rulebook right here. This is Midgard Heroic Battles, historical, legendary, and fantasy battles in an age of heroic deeds. The title actually encapsulates the rules. Actually, it's everything you need to know about the rules. It's historical in the sense that it's mythical history. It is fantasy battles. There are rules for different fantasy creatures and races and stuff like that. And then you have heroic deeds, which is actually an integral part of the game. Okay, this is a very pretty looking book. I must say. I had a quick flip through before actually starting the video, and it's just filled with all this nice art and diagrams and stuff like that. And long viewers will know it's got nice miniatures. I like rule books that has pictures of a lot of miniatures, which is one of my peeves, or one of the things I like, not peeves, one of the things I like about looking through rule books is actually seeing how it's presented and stuff like that. But let's do this. Let's flip through this book right here, Midgard Heroic Battles. Now the art direction for this book is quite good. It's really good. But I wanna also very quickly point this out over here. This book, it says, is dedicated to pet nails, which is which I thought was really great because I am quite a fan of Slain or Sloiner. So this one immediately uh, became one of the rule books I knew I had to feature. Anyways, let's look inside. Oh, by the way, just at the credits bit, they credit a lot of miniatures. So if any of the miniatures in the book you think are kind of nice, they're probably from any one of these manufacturers, which is great. Okay, so you got table of contents, and then you got such a beautiful splash page to bring you into the world or into the game. It's very nice, very pretty, very nicely posed. And then you got like some art over there. Now this book has a couple of tricks which I quite like. Apart from the fact that they've got this nice art over here, they've got these two characters which will appear throughout the whole book. These are like the advisors. They're the clippets. If anybody remembers clippets, but they will give you little tips throughout the book, right? So you have Morgan and Raidwald, Morgan and Raidwald. And what they do is they'll add on to the little bits. They are just like conversation boxes, which give you tips and stuff like that, or little bits of information. Also, I like how the book has bits like this, little quotes and stuff like that, which actually help bring make the reading quite entertaining. Anyways, moving in. No, this game actually works on this thing called spear throws. Spear throws is the measurement, right? It's basically about 12 centimeters. This game works on centimeters, and the centimeter is 12 centimeters is actually the frontages for all the bases in this game, which I thought was like, oh, it was interesting. It's standardized bases. Um, and it's also how you measure movement and how you measure range is by spear throw. So every 12 centimeters is considered one measurement, right? Which is they call it a spear throw, or ST. Now in the game you'll need all of these and these mighty deeds tokens or beads or whatever you wanna add. These are actually quite integral to the game, to be honest. And you also need let me see, I got it over here. You will need some sort of marker to show your victories or your reputation. I can't remember what the word for it. Reputation points. Yeah, reputation tokens. And reputation tokens are basically for things that you do which is extraordinary, right? In the game, so hence making it I mean, you win the game by accumulating as many of these reputation points as possible, which I thought was a very interesting mechanic. Yeah. So, anyways, there's some poetry here. It's like I said, all those nice little bits of little, you know, when you're flipping through the book, all these things to point out. And then you got Rainwald here. Okay, with a little bit of tips and stuff like that. More art. And then you got chapter one, which is basically units and heroes. This is basically telling you what units they are. You basically have warriors, skirmishers, heavy riders, light riders, and monstrosities, all on 12 centimeter frontages. And it's actually for 28 millimeter. Now, I must state though that this game is miniature agnostic, so you can use any miniatures that you want for this game. Also, if you the 12 centimeter basing frontage is just a reference. You can use whatever measurement you like. I mean, so it's just a suggestion, but if you're using a different measurement, of course, all of this will change, right? But for the sake of going through this book, I'm just going to use the standardized 12 centimeters, which is basically a spear throw for all the measurements. So yeah, so you got skirmishers, heavy riders, light riders, and monstrosities. And monstrosities are pretty much on their own, like on their own basis. Now, one of the first concepts I thought was kind of interesting about this rule set is killing zones, and these are basically like if you're playing DBA, there's ZOCs, right, zone of command, right, and now basically when you're in somebody's zone of command, you can only move forward or backward into the thing, which is it's just an interesting concept to add into a game like this. But I like the fact that if you're thinking of this game as more of a skirmish kind of game, it's not. It is basically rank and flank, more or less. But it's a bit more meaty, I guess. Because it's got all these different rules, all these different like things that the mechanic is a little bit complex. So it's not really beginner friendly. But I think you play it a few times and you'd be good at it. Now, integral to to this game is the heroes, and they all have stats, right? And the other thing I like about this game is the fact that the heroes are not superheroes. They're just slightly better than the rest, right? Because at the end of the day, you want this to be like a deadly, and you want to have a lot of risk, and to have a lot of risk, you can't have heroes which will risk nothing by going into the battle, expecting not to lose so much. Anyways, you got different ranks of heroes. You got your champions, your minor heroes, your major heroes, and legendary heroes. Each of these will give you mighty deed tokens. And what is mighty deed tokens? Are basically if you want to rally, if you want to go into combat, you want extra dice. So it's basically bonuses, right? In dice form. Anyways, so nice art. And then you have preparing for battle, and this is the force organization. This is what the stat line looks like. Points, combat dice, shooting dice, and stuff like that. So all of your units will have that stat, and here's an example of that stat. Now this game works on a D6. For almost always 5 and 6 is a hit. Almost always. Depending on the modifiers, of course. And then you got terrain. Terrain is going to be quite important for this game. But I was listening to an interview with the designer, and open terrain is more preferable for games like this. But you can actually make a table look nice. But these are just rules in case you want to populate a table with like terrain. Anyways, moving along, you got chapter 4. Chapter 4 is reputation, and this is how you win the game. Now, whenever you do something of some heroic repute, you get reputation, right? And the person with the most reputation wins. It's really that simple. And here's the table on on getting reputation, right? Moving along, you got your combat command tests, and then turn sequence. Now, the other thing I thought about this rule set which I thought was really great is this turn sequence. It's different. It's I want to say it's me, I go, you go, but it's not really. So you got your mighty deed phase, and your attackers move, and then your light horse and your skirmish fire, and then the defender moves, and light and skirmishers fire, and light horse fire, and then everybody else fires, and then you count your reputation from that turn, which is very interesting, very interesting. Very interesting. Is a different way of doing combat sequences, and that's why when you go through the chapters, you'll see Mighty Deeds is basically phase one, and that breaks down, how to, allocate your tokens. And like chapter 8, you see movement, and it's phases 2 and phases 4. Again, you got these characters who, add. I think this is a very great idea to add to the book. And I also like the fact that you got these different charts, making things easy, for you to visualize, for you to understand the intent of the rules writers, right? Anyways, moving along. I'm not going to go through rules very, very deeply, but let me just say that the rules are interestingly good. Newbies might have a little bit of trouble with this, but I think with a few games, you should be alright. Anyways, chapter 9, you got shooting, and this is phases 2, 4, and 6. And this is basically, attacker, light skirmishers, and light horse. And then phase 4, which is basically defenders, light skirmishers, and light horse. And then 6 is everybody else, right? And that's the shooting phase. Again, very interesting that it's got 3 phases of shooting. Very, very interesting. Anyways, these are all the rules for shooting. I'm not going to go through that. Why? Because hey, get the rulebook. It's worth it. Anyways, more nice bits of art right there. And then you got melee combat, and that happens in phase 3 and phase 5. Now again, every time you have things like this, phase 3 and phase 5, it does feel a bit heavy. Especially if you're a new person. In fact, when I was flipping through the book, I was wondering what was going on. A slow read will enlighten you more or less. Anyways, in this game, you have two kinds of combat. You've got single combat, and then you've got melee combat between units. Now remember I was telling you about the mighty deeds. If you were to, you can use mighty deeds to pump your combat. Now if you were to accept the challenge, you get reputation. You win the challenge, you get even more reputation. If you deny a challenge, you lose reputation. And again, reputation is how you win the game, which is very, very interesting. It adds something else to the game, which I thought was kind of cool. Also, when you are playing this game, there are elements which I thought were evident in other historical games, which they actually added to this game, which I thought was kind of nice. Things like supporting units, right? So you have, if you're engaged in combat or hand-to-hand combat, and the supporting units add to the result, right? This I mean the only example I can think of, which is at the moment, is that maybe DBA, where you got the support units on the side to help. And if the result goes against you, the whole block of line moves, back and retreats together, which I thought was kind of nice. It shows a bit of a maturity when it comes to doing rank and file, and in the importance of having support, right? So in that sense, it's got that slightly more historical or more serious flavor, if it can be serious like that. But again, because of having supporting units and stuff like that, you're gonna have even more rules, different steps on how to go about resolving combat. Anyways, more art, and look at that, a warp spasm right there. Yes. Anyways, chapter 11 is end of turn, and this is when you resolve stuff, and this is when you get your reputation and stuff like that. Yeah. Now, what actually adds to the game, or your units, are the traits, right? So in essence, most of the armies are more or less the same, in terms of stats, but you add traits to make them even more unique, right? And there's a whole lot of traits here for you to choose from. And then what is also kind of interesting is you've got unit traits, which only units can take, general traits, which everybody can take, and then you have heroic traits, so only heroes can take. So two players playing with the same army can actually have many different games with different traits, hence different results, right? Which I thought it's nice. It adds to a replayability and variety. If you don't have that many players to play with, and you're playing the same two armies, instead of buying a new army, you just like add new traits to it, which I thought was very, very nice. Anyways, moving along, you got flyers. Whenever I see flyers in a game like this, I remember the old Warhammer Fantasy Fly High rule, uh, which is actually interesting. But they have actually added flyers into this game, and there are rules for it. And again, I'm not going to get into the rules simply because it's got its own set of complexities. But suffice to know, suffice to say that there are flyers in this game. And then you got sorcery. You know what? Why not? Right? You're doing fantasy. Have some sorcery, right? And as you can see, you've got different spells, resisting spell stuff, and when you got sorcery, you got your whole bunch of spells to use, right? Which I think is fantastic. Which leads us to scenarios. Again, all this nice looking art, man. This book's really, really pretty. It's a very, very nice looking product, right? Which I thought, wow, the person doing the art design for this book has definitely pulled off something really, really nice. Okay, so you got scenarios in chapter 15, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 scenarios. Most of the scenarios are for 6x4 tables, and that's pretty much the size of the table that they want you to play on. It's 6x4 at the it's not small. It's basically proper rank and file 6x4 tables. Okay, next up on chapter 16, you got force lists, and these are basically examples of lists that you can actually use or have inspiration for, and you've got like for example this one, force number 1 is Arthos and the Britons, and you got 300 points. What is kind of cool is at the bottom you have what it looks like at 400 points, what you can add. So you can actually like just take this list and play with it before there'll be later chapters when you build your own list. But let's have a look at the list they offer as something to whet your appetite or imagination. And you got Ale Saxon Raiders, 300 points, and it's the 400 points list. And then you got El Cid's Medieval Spanish. Which is cool. You got the Spanish in here, and then you have Ibni Tadfins, Taffins, Almovarios, Almovavios. Oh, God, I get it wrong. Anyways, moving along, we got the dwarves, and here's where the fantasy bit comes in as well. Dwarves of the Copper Mountains, so you can play with some dwarves, and of course, when you have dwarves, you're gonna have some orcs, and this is Zagrod the Cruel's orc warband, and then you have Lycanthiers, elven hosts. You got the elves, and then the undead, of course. So this is all the fantasy staples, right? That's force number 8, force number 9, the Greeks. Oh, yeah, and here's you got Trojan War, right? So yeah, you got the army list for the Greeks in the Trojan War and the defenders of Troy, which I thought was interesting. It's a nice mix, man. It's a really very nice mix. And if you're looking for something a little bit more godly, yeah, Thor and Aesir, and then you have Loki. Thor versus Loki. Loki and the Frost Giants. So it pretty much covers a lot of mythical forces, fantasy forces, for you to, just to give you some idea what you can do with this rule set. Anyways, once you've whet your appetite and once your imagination or your creativity is worked to a frenzy, you can actually create your own force. And here's how you do that. And moving along, we have let me see now. Yeah, so these are all the force creation rules and stuff like Heavy Riders. And then you got the charts, and this is for ease. I kind of wish they supplied these tables on a separate piece of paper, piece of card, but I don't know. Maybe that's asking too much. Anyways, here's the index. So references. I mean, if you're looking for something, it will be easy. And then the back of the book. Yeah. Cattle die, kinsmen die, the self must also die. I know one thing which never dies, the reputation of each dead man. Where? Okay, so that's pretty much it. That is Midgard Heroic Battles. And it's written by James Morris. Alright. Now, again, I don't think I'll recommend this for a newbie, but maybe a intermediate player, someone who's played already played the simpler rule sets, want something with a little bit more meat, a little bit more tactics, a little bit more complexity, this would probably be it. Also, if you're playing any of the other rule sets that are out right now, those miniatures can probably be used later for Midgard. I mean, if you're building an army for pillage, you can actually put bases to put the figures onto the base to play this game, or if you so choose to use the war games Atlantics miniatures and try to play the game that way, you can. Again, it's recommended frontage 12 centimeter, played on a 6x4 board, and the measurements use this thing called spear throw. And that's pretty much the core of it. Dice rolls 5 or 6 is pretty much hit most of the time, and there are modifiers. But that's oversimplifying the rule set. It looks really nice. It looks like it's got a lot to offer, and also it's a really pretty book. Really pretty book. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. That's me flipping through Midgard Heroic Battles. If you like me flipping through more rule books and giving my thoughts on it, just let me know, and I'll probably do that. And don't forget, like and subscribe. Let me know what you thought of this rule set if you've played it before. I've gotten this quite late. This book has been out for a little while, and I've only just gotten my hands on it. So you've probably played this. If you have, tell me what you thought of it. If you haven't, would you give this a go? So yeah, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And as always, don't forget to enjoy painting those figures.